Brooke?
Willowbrook, as I said, item page there.
Nine.
Item number 9.
9.
Because I live in the road.
Okay. Are you going to be commenting and not voting, or?
No comment.
Okay.
I just have to declare that I live in the road.
Did you also
It doesn't
submit?
affect me.
You submitted a thing onto the planning portal as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I don't have to declare that.
You don't have to declare that.
No.
You put that in as a councillor or as a member of the public?
Both.
Right, okay. Right, thank you. So, and you put that in the book anyway, haven't you, Martin? Yeah?
Sorry,
You put it in the book.
Check and
No, you put your declaration and put it in the book.
I'm going to.
Brilliant.
Yeah, the clerk did
Right.
speak to me about
No, that's fine, that's okay. So item 3 then is the minutes of the... do you 3 want your own room or something? The minutes, Martin, you're going to propose it?
I would just like to, and apologies to the clerk for not getting back to it before the meeting, on the item relating to the expenditure 182/18. I'd just like it to be minuted that the chairman gave a presentation at that point. That's
Oh,
all.
right, okay. Yeah, fine, thank you. That'll be put on, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
good chair.
With no comment, because that did happen.
Yes. Any other, looking for a proposer then for those minutes, for those that were here? If you weren't here, if you're absent, Paul was absent, Sally Ann was absent, and Joy were absent, so you don't, I believe, so you don't have to, you'll be abstaining on this one. So proposed by Joy, seconded by Zoe. All those in favour then? So we've got 8, and then 3 abstentions.
Yeah.
That equates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And you'll add a note in here later on, mate, Alison, about what Martin said.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just item 4 is chairman's and members' reports. To receive reports from the chairman and members who have attended meetings on behalf of Oakham Town Council. Did I take? Did the neighbourhood plan one go out?
Yes.
Oh, good. Are there any other? I know that there was one that came through. All right, right, we'll go around. Joyce.
Now, right, I'll stand up to this one.
Thank you.
You don't have to write anything, Alison, it's all written down. The tree warden's report on the tree warden's meeting on the 9th of October. It was attended by 8 other parish tree wardens.
Chair over there.
There were many questions answered by the Rutland County Council forestry officer. In fact, it was a very good meeting. Discussions on invading tree roots, damage to walkways, diseases of trees, and what can be done to encourage schools to take part in planting trees. Each parish had their own problems, including the development, which came as a big surprise to me, at the Ramjam Inn on the A1, where we have lost a complete orchard. Ancient orchard, it's gone. Trees and hedgerows, and the removal of hedgerows and tree diebacks. I have to say the removal of the hedgerow has become a court proceedings. A discussion followed about bird boxes and the National Planning Policy Framework paper dated July 2018. I've tried to find it and I can't find it. It's worthy to note that tree wardens do not have to be parish councillors. I was the only parish councillor there who was also the tree warden. I gave an account of the forthcoming ecology weekend in 2019. Charlotte Ridpath and I are working on this and details will emerge later. It's at the castle for a weekend of ecology. Thank you.
Thank you, Joyce. Any other reports?
Yeah.
Paul?
Sorry, I think I've just missed something off that one. Can I just add this bit in? The Deputy Tree Warden was notified on the 5th of October and again on the 8th of October by me and I don't want any come back that I didn't notify.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Paul?
Yeah, I attended the AGM for Oakham in Bloom last night. We got a fairly extended rundown on the last year, a report on the last year's successes, things not so successful, prospects for the new year, and problems with irrigation due to the climate. However, apart from that, we elected a new committee and officers. I can't tell you who they are at the moment because they were mainly on first name basis. That was my first visit there. But basically what we'll do is, as soon as I get the minutes, I'll email you with the information. Apart from that, I also attended the Neighbourhood Plan Group meeting this afternoon. They intend to conclude their opinion gathering operation on the 20th of September.
September?
October, yeah, sorry, I'm a month behind. 20th of October, and proceed directly to formulate their plan, hopefully finished by the new year. Again, I'm waiting for the information that they're going to email through to us with the details, and I'll pass that on as soon as I get it.
Brilliant, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, very good.
Are there any councillors' questions notified? No other reports. Was there any councillors' questions notified? No. Clerk's report? No report from the clerk. So item 7 is deputations by the public. Hello public. Members of the public are invited to address the meeting in accordance with the procedures laid down in our standing orders. So you can address anything on the meeting basically, and you can speak for up to 3 minutes. So if you, I know we've got some people here from the Willowbrook Community Trust. And I know that we're discussing this on the item, on the agenda. If it doesn't become exempt, I don't think it will. I don't think it should be. Doesn't need to be, and you'll be able to stay for that. And then it might be that if any pertinent questions come up, we might lean on you then. I'm allowed to do that, I think. But has any of the members of the public got anything they want to say, or anybody got anything they want to say on anything? Shoot.
It's customary to stand.
Sorry. That's okay. I'm here today to ask your permission as our landlord for us to build a new residential home on the land behind Willowbrook, and to apologise again for not seeking this permission earlier. Following our previous meeting where you made us aware of your concerns and those of the neighbouring residents, we have carried out your requests. We've made contact with the residents of Claresholme Close and have agreed ways forwards to alleviate their concerns. We've marked out the footprint of the proposed new building, and some of you have taken up our offer to visit the site. We are aware of the rubbish at the corner of the site and agree that this can be moved on, however we've not yet covered this. We want to build this facility for several reasons. Firstly, it would enable our current service users to have a better living environment. It also would enable us to refurbish our current home to provide services for a wider group of vulnerable adults. It will also create jobs within the local area. As you know, we are a small non-profit charity and the only provider in Oakham for adults with learning disabilities. We've worked really closely with Rutland County Council to establish the needs of vulnerable adults within the county before devising our plans. The proposed new development is in line with Rutland County Council's Learning Disability Market Position Statement for 2018, which states that their aim is to work collaboratively with partners to make the best use of resources and improve the learning disability options for residents in Rutland. This is something we hope we can achieve through the new build. We will offer all our vacancies to Rutland residents, and the council has assured us that the need in Rutland is so high that the units will be full at all times. Therefore, we will consistently be having a large positive impact on local vulnerable people. We are aware that if you give us permission, there are areas within the build that we will need to be mindful of, such as extra traffic and noise during the build, and we will ensure that we work closely with the neighbourhood to keep disruption to as much of a minimum as possible. If you give us permission to build, we are more than happy to negotiate an increase in ground rent and other areas of the lease as you feel necessary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? No? Okay, so item 8 would be to exempt item 9, and I can't think at the moment of any reason to exempt it. Martin?
I'd like to make a proposal that we don't exempt item number 9.
Okay, so Councillor Martin has proposed that we don't exempt, seconded by Paul. All those in favour it's not exempt? That's unanimous. Good. So item 9 then, which is appendix B, which was you've got the photographs of it. As I think nearly all councillors, well, a lot of the councillors attended the meeting at the offices on the High Street, was it a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago now, I think. There was a courtesy extended where councillors were invited down to have a look at the area where after it had been marked out, and I think a number of councillors have done this. I didn't personally go down because I was able to interpret the plans easily because having dealt with plans before. I don't know if everybody else has had a chance to look at some of the documents that have come through, but I did take the opportunity to look on the County Council website, and there was various letters on there. The majority of the letters were in favour of it. I think we need to give an indication to and I'm not saying that we need to make a definitive decision tonight, because we would need to speak to solicitors and all the rest of it, but we need to give an indication of whether we would be moving forward or saying no. And if we said no, we'd have to have, I think, pretty good reasons. But I'd be interested to see what each councillor has to say as we work around the table. Anybody got anything to say first? Fine.
Well, I live in the ward.
Oh yes.
Yes. We had a thing which has been tabled this evening, and it's one of my biggest bugbears, and I know I have spoken to the clerk, and she sort of explained things, but this is a serious issue for council, and we are supposed to have information 3 days before the meeting so we can make a careful and considered thing. Yourself, you said we don't know whether we can say yes or no. This document that's been handed to me this evening says that we can actually say no. I don't know if anybody else has read it, but that's why we should be given the things in.
This one we just got.
Yeah, but the thing is, also, the agenda item doesn't actually say what we're being asked to decide. So really, we should be deferring it tonight for a proper report to be brought to council, but we probably won't. But anyway, I would like to move on and just make some comments. Part of it is my disappointment, and I accept the apology from the lady who's come from Willowbrook Trust in the fact that it appears that they ignored the council's request for further information. The item was deferred. And went ahead and put planning permission, which has been granted. That's fair enough, but they spent money. We could decide, as we've already decided to, that if we were the planning authority, we wouldn't get planning permission. So I don't know what the council will decide, but after the meeting, I was also disappointed by the lack of professionalism from people who claimed to be employees of the organisation, and I mean by their opinions, which were made personally against me on Facebook, on the Rutland Radio page. I cut it short and said it was unprofessional to continue this, but it really upset me the way I was personally attacked by people who claimed to be your employees. And also we've heard tonight that it's going to create jobs. I've read all the paperwork, and I've read in your own paperwork that there are going to be job losses. It's quite clear in there that it's going to reduce the amount of people employed because it's becoming, sorry, I'm losing my breath because I know time. I need to pause. But, you know, these are the reasons that I objected to it before, is because residents didn't want it. I don't know what you've done in the meantime to apparently change their mind or whatever, but they told us at the meeting that they didn't want it, so that's why I supported my residents. I also have concerns because I can't clearly define whether the land that the organisation asked for as a garden, looking at the plans, I'm not a planning expert, it looks like the second leased land, which is still allotment land, but apparently Rutland County Council it's now declared that it's open space, can be built on. Well, I object to that. You know, the allotment land is quite scarce, especially in our county, you know, and we need to protect it. And I don't think people have done their, I don't know who, but I don't think that it has been handled at all correctly. And you know, we've been offered extra money. That's not the point. Ground rent is cheap. I pay £10 for a leasehold. properties. So to be waiving money, that's not the point. This should have been handled properly. When this council decided we wanted more information, they shouldn't have gone behind our backs and just put planning in and dumped it on us. And I'll shut up before I upset people.
Thank you. Right, I'll work. I know that Joy wants to say something. I'm going to work around the table and see if anybody wants to say anything as we go round. So, Joyce, do you want to say anything at this moment?
Well, I was going to listen to the debate and I've got a mouthful of peppermint.
Zoe, do you want to say anything? Zoe, did you want to contribute?
Yeah, can I say
Pushkan, yes, Pushkan.
I respect what Martin is saying in terms of what should have happened and what didn't happen, but I think it would be a real shame to not move discussion on based on what's happened in the past. I think it would be good to move forward. And having worked in social care for a number of years, Willowbrook is behind the times and really does need updating, and I think it really would be an asset to the county, and if the objections that the residents had have been looked at and reassessed, then I think that's a good starting point to move forward.
Yeah, thank you. Peter, you...
Yes, thank you. Yes, I support the sentiments that are being expressed. However, I do feel we want to move forward. I attended the site to get a feel of what it's all about, and generally I support it in principle. I think we should accept the apology that it hasn't been set up properly, but you know, that is what it is. We need to move on. However, this is an asset, so we've got to do it properly. We're looking at risk management later, and we need to go through the proper process. The solicitors need to look at it, and we need to look at all the ramifications, get some sort of valuation on what the rent should be, and then work forward from that. In other words, we need to move forward on a professional basis.
Thank you, Peter. We'll skirt over me. Scoot over. David.
Thank you. Well, the only comment I have is as an authority, and everybody that's in this room sat at the planning meeting, and as I remember quite clearly, members in this authority said it's overdevelopment, and as far as I know, that has not changed. So I can't see your argument that you're saying yes, it should go ahead now, when not 2-3 months ago you all thought it was overdevelopment of the site, and you run the risk of we've had a meeting with them, and people have been down to look at the site. But at the end of the day, when you looked at the plans as a planning issue, you rejected this because of overdevelopment. And I know that one of the residents who spoke quite kindly at the meeting is here tonight, and unless his views have changed, which we won't know because we've gone past. Are we dealing with this as a planning issue? Or?
It's not a planning issue now, no.
No,
Because planning.
So we don't actually know, although we're told that the residents' fears have all been exchanged. And please, you shouldn't be passing paperwork at a meeting with a member of the public. And I know he's a county councillor, but our standing orders do state clearly. So, you know, I think we're in a position where we've already made a decision, and now we're going to try and make the same decision again. I do wonder if the 6-month rule should be implemented, because you're being asked to decide on the same planning issue. That's all, Jim.
I'll just address a bit on the 6-month rule. When we discussed it before, we considered a planning application,
Yeah.
and this is not a planning application. This is now the landlords making a decision on whether they allow the development or not. So that's sort of marginally how to get around that. But I hear your word. So, Jean.
Right. I also went to look at the site. I went at the same time as Peter. I feel that there is a need, and from that point of view, I feel we need to support it. They are very vulnerable people, and Rutland would be proud to have this facility in the Oakham area. What I would like to see, though, if it goes ahead and goes forward, is a lot more discussion and agreement with us when things are going to happen, because we are the landlord, and having visited the site, and I did make the point while I was there, it is a mess. The trees look awful, they're way overgrown, and the general feeling of the site was uncared for. But that aside, what you do there is brilliant, and I would want to support it from that point of view. And I think moving forward, working together, is a better way forward. And I accept that the way that you went ahead with it really was wrong, but we need to move on. Okay?
Thank you, Dean. Anne?
The day that I was going to come and look round, unfortunately it was cancelled, so I'm going to come on Monday now. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's just one or two things that I've tried to pick up, but it's very difficult on these flat photographs because it doesn't show anything. But I observed these two things, a hut and a greenhouse. They look totally, and looking at the plan as best I can, because I'm not an expert, where is this recreation area? Because these other people are coming in, and I'm concerned that there is adequate recreation when it's a hot summer. They want to go outside and perhaps do a bit of gardening, do a bit of something, and I'm not sure. So on Monday I'll be clearer, but at the moment I just think that looks an awful waste of a lovely greenhouse and a sort of potting shed place.
Sally-Anne?
No, I've nothing to add.
No, thank you, Sally-Anne. Paul?
Yes, I'd like to.
Sorry, still got Anna a minute. Paul.
Conversations.
I'd like to support Sally and Jean. Frankly, these are obviously vulnerable people in need, and I think that takes priority over whether or not we got the procedure correct. And as for changing our minds, if the council gets a bit of egg on its face now and again, I don't really care. We're here to serve people, not buildings. Very nice.
Can I just clarify that point that I was discussing? Is the greenhouse and the
Yes,
shed?
you can.
It belongs to
Does it belong to you or the allotment? Yeah,
who?
the allotment.
Oh, right.
So they look nice, but they
Oh,
don't
then
belong
it's
to
to
you.
the fence.
Very relevant.
Very
relevant.
It's not
Right.
clear.
Thank you. Let's, Joy. Thank you. Thank you.
First of all, can I say that the plan that we have in our agendas is not correct. So if you're looking at this plan that's been sent out for the agenda, this is not the correct plan for the building that we're looking at.
How's that?
It's an old one. It dates back and it has the entrance in a different place. The buildings are the other way
Can I
around.
just ask what the speak flag is?
Yes, please.
Can I ask us what number is on the bottom of the drawing?
Yes, it's 787-17-2A.
And it should be 5B.
Yes.
Fine, I sent
Sorry,
that.
5B.
So we haven't got the right one.
We haven't got the right plan.
Well, I don't know.
It isn't. I've got the correct plans here from the website.
So the one I sent this morning.
We're on.
No, the one I got from one of your colleagues the other day,
I
last
sent
week.
you the correct one.
Yeah, today.
Yeah.
But the one that went out last week was what your colleague sent
we
me.
updated them. didn't
Oh,
we? I
okay,
spoke
so,
to you yesterday.
I've got a copy.
What's the difference between the two plans?
There's the roof colour.
The
Here's one.
difference
Use the table here. We're just going to see what the. I just want to see if it's a significant impact.
No, the old one, sorry.
The old one.
We think we're doing this, and I think the gentleman who objected to it last time should have the opportunity to speak.
Okay.
I've got the RCC one here as
It
well.
is actually quite different.
Yes.
It is very different because originally the first one you got is one that speak.
Yeah.
We initially took the access from the bank and down from the existing track and down the bank.
Right.
But we actually changed it round so the access went through the actual Willowbrook site because we didn't really want to impact on the existing allotments.
Yeah.
So by swapping the access round the other way, it meant that everything was done within sight and had minimal impact.
Right. Okay. So does it change the size of the footprint or the height?
No, it doesn't
Right,
change
okay.
the building.
Thank you. Right. Let Joy carry on. Martin, hang on.
Okay, so just so we're
Yeah.
looking at a
Yeah.
slightly different building.
Yeah.
I'd like to say this is an emotive issue, and I've heard that tonight. And I agree that it's an important facility, and it's going to serve a good need. But I think it's incumbent on us as the landlords to ensure that this building when it's constructed is the best it can be. And I have some doubts at the moment. And my doubts are that, firstly, the land was changed in before the lease was taken out. The change of use was approved by the Secretary of State from allotment to amenity land for the use and enjoyment of the residents and staff of Willowbrook. Setting aside the problem with the permission going through, the application not being right, when you look at the plans, the building is large and covers a high percentage of the site. It's placed where it is because there is a sewage pipe through the middle of the site, but I understand that sewage pipes can be bridged.
Probably not that one.
Okay.
Okay, let's have a think about this one. The remaining amenity space that is left for this site is on the allotment side of the building, which is sloped and which therefore has perhaps less suitable space for the residents to use. There is, in order to make the access on the plans which you do not have, they have taken an access road between the two existing buildings, taking out the whole of the existing garden where the summer house is, and putting in a roadway and parking spaces to a large piece of parking space on the new amenity land. This is going to impact on the people who live in both those two buildings, who instead of looking out on a piece of garden are going to be looking out on tarmac and parking, which is perhaps not the best it is. When you look at the new building, because it's set so far towards the brook side of the property, it looks on the plans like a large piece of space in front of it. If you go and measure it, there is something like just 6 metres between the patio doors of the sitting rooms and the fence. And on the inside of that, I presume, as was for the previous building, we will be building a hedge, so that's going to go down to 5 metres, which means the sitting rooms, which are going to be used by our residents, the residents, are going to be overshadowed by a tall hedge and tall trees, and they're not going to get a lot of light, and there's not a lot of space there as amenity space. So my concern is that the building, however much we need it, needs to be the right building for the site, and we're going to have a further, let me see how many extra people is it? That's 10 to 8 people. So we're going to have more people using the site, and yet there's going to be significantly less attractive land that they can use. The garden and the summer house is going to go, there's very little, it's going to be dark and shadowed outside the sitting room, and the free land is sloped and not very suitable. I see that they want to have an access, a vehicle access to the new building, but the current layout has 14 parking spaces in the current bay. By putting all this tarmac through, they are losing some on the front, so we're going down to 8 on the front and 8 on the back. So for all this loss of garden, they're gaining 2 car parking spaces. I think it's a hard decision to make, because I think we have to think about the quality of the building and the quality of the life of the people who are going to live there. I am not against having the building there, but I think it needs to be taken more into account of the site and how it works to make it the best it can be. And with the present plans, I personally would not be in favour of it, because there's not sufficient amenity, and that's what land was given for.
Okay. Right, Joyce.
I've got rid of mine. Can I just congratulate Councillor Clough for actually addressing the mayor and not the people that are sitting there, and that's how it should be. I've lived with Willowbrook ever since the thing was built. It has been controversial from the very, very beginning. I have thoughts about, yes, I have worked in the National Health Service, and yes, people are vulnerable. But this paper was given to us tonight, and it says, number 3 says, 6.1 also provides that the property may only be used for the defined permitted use, which was used for gardens and amenity land for use in connection with the adjoining premises, known as Willowbrook. under the terms of this lease. Therefore, the Oakham Town Council, as landlords, can refuse consent for any building on this land. Now, this land was originally for the residents of Willowbrook to have an amenity, to dig, to have a little plot of their own where they could grow stuff, etc., etc. To me, this, in some terms, is what I would term land grab.
Okay, yeah, I know. Right,
Yeah.
Martin.
Yeah, I would like to make a proposal as well. But
No, I'm not taking any proposal at the moment because
Well,
I haven't finished speaking.
No,
I haven't
that's
said
fine.
anything yet.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, but let you know that I'd like to make a proposal. I also have and that was what I was trying to point out earlier, that because once again we're only given this information as we're sitting down for a meeting, that was given to them in 2012, and I'm being careful not to use those words, land grab, because I did actually say earlier that this has been in the planning for some time, and it's possible that, I won't say any more, but, you know, we could get into trouble because when we gave that land, I asked for it just to be licensed, and we've given a lease which clearly states, according to the solicitor, and I do have the lease at home and I will check it, that they can't build on it. So that should be the end of the matter. But we did not seek permission from the Secretary of State to give away allotment land again. And that's where I'm concerned for this council, the ramifications of what we as a council have done. You know, the allotment acts are there to protect allotments, and as Joyce pointed out, there was a lot of, and I've looked into it, I know exactly who set up the trust and everything, and the history of it, and it did have to go to the Secretary of State, and that is the law. We could be held responsible for what we've done, and this is what I'm asking you, where I want to give a proposal. We can't make a decision this evening, and I know Adam wants to speak, but
well, only if you let me.
Yeah, but if afterwards, if I could make a proposal, please.
David said that a member of the public was here and might like to address at this point as well. Is that the case? No?
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Chairman. I must admit, I came along not having an expectation to address the forum. I didn't realise the plans had actually changed since the initial.
I think it's the entrance and access point as opposed to the building side.
But it sounds as though, with respect, it sounds as though the plans have actually materially changed the site. Now, we've obviously been in conversation with the Rutland House Community Trust, and we're intending to do a site visit as residents of Claresholm. We're intending to do a site visit in the next few days. What I'd rather do is actually defer until such time as we've done that visit, what our feelings are. There are only two of us represented here today. There are actually 4 people who are impacted, 4 households who are impacted. So I think in the light of the new plans and in the light of the fact that we're going to do a site visit, I'd like to actually regroup and consider what our reaction to the revised permission. It does strike me, I have to say that it does strike me as though there's the process has been bizarrely askew as well. I think that should be said. Thank you.
I think we acknowledge that. Right.
Point of interest, these plans that you've got, I don't know where they've come from, but the planning application went in on these plans. So the plans that are on the planning board that you will have seen are the ones that are on the table, not the ones that are council.
Right. Well, I just want to address the everybody really. I don't think we should be using words like land grab and phrases like Secretary of State and unlawful or it's illegal, because all of this is incorrect in my opinion, because nobody here is qualified to make those comments or those observations. Councillor Brooks even alluded to the fact that he's got the deeds at home and will probably even look at them later on when you get home. Don't make the comments, please, councillors, or indeed anybody. If you, Councillor Brooks, I'm speaking now, so please be quiet. So I'd say that make only comment. I mean, Joy, you raised some interesting points and other points that I've highlighted here. And the main thing is that yes, David, the town council rejected the planning application at a planning meeting, and they used the things like overdevelopment. It's gone to the Rutland County Council, and the planning authority there passed it. So they identified no planning considerations. So that's a slightly higher authority than us. There were points raised about, yes, they were going to create jobs. Somebody else said no, it said they're not. But we've heard this evening that it would create more jobs. In actual fact, it's even going to create 2 more car parking spaces, if for no other reason for staff to park, I would imagine. The majority...
Sorry, Chairman, but that's not documented.
I'm not pausing so you can talk. I'm pausing so you can be quiet, please. The majority of letters from other residents are in agreement. The impact on the allotment land, I do not believe in actual fact there has been any objection from the Allotment Society, and there has been no impact on allotment land as such. And it does say in the document, yes, admittedly, it was only handed out this evening because as it became available to the clerk, she was very keen to make sure that everybody was aware of it. And yes, Joyce quite rightly pointed out paragraph 3. Therefore, Oakham Town Council, as landlords, can refuse consent for any building on the land, but they could also allow it. So it's up to us. It's not up to somebody else. It's up to us as landlords. I believe that there is some confusion over the plans. I accept, as the chairman and as an individual councillor, the fact that you didn't follow the procedures. I'm not going to allow that to stand in the way, and I like what Paul said. I'm not going to allow that minor point, and it is a minor point when you think about the seriousness of what we're talking about, impact on any decision that this council makes. Because everything I've heard so far from people in this room, members of the public, obviously Rutland House Community Trust, but also a wider spectrum of people, is that they do believe that this facility is a little bit unique in Rutland, and it does offer an incredibly invaluable service. Now, Martins wants to make a proposal. I'm hoping that somewhere in your proposal, Martin, and I'm not going to guide you on this, I'm just going to say, because I'm not making one myself at the minute. I'm hoping that you're looking to defer this and potentially probably set up a working group where you explore in more detail what this would be, what the correct plans are, and look at the further impacts. And I think that's, and because I was checking the councillors' opinions as we go around the room, and the majority of councillors at the moment seem to be in favour, although it could be 50-50. What is your proposal, Mark?
Well, if I can just come back to the bit when you said I shouldn't be commenting about the Secretary of State, I object to that because...
We can object, I made it.
Yeah, but you shouldn't be making it because
Why?
The allotment is protected by the Allotment Act, which the Secretary of State governs.
What's your proposal?
My proposal, and I'm not going to propose a working group because this should actually be
What's
done
your
to the
proposal?
office at this stage. My proposal is that this matter is deferred to the next meeting and that we are provided with proper information. And you know, I've no disrespect to the office, but what we've been provided before this meeting just didn't help at all.
So you want it deferred to the November meeting so we can get some additional information?
An update, basically. It's not a decision that we're going to be able to make overnight because leases have got to be changed.
Yeah. What information are you after?
Well, we're starting from point A, really, because what we have is inadequate. So that's what I'm saying is that we've had a request this evening, a verbal request to build on land.
Right, so
we need to now defer that because we don't have the information.
So Martin has put a proposal that this is deferred to the November meeting so that we can get additional information. David wanted to say something.
I'll make an amendment, if I may, Chairman, to that, and that a working group is set up to look at the lease before any decision is made. Because obviously, what we decide, if we decide what we decide the rent should be, and they don't want to pay it, then it's scuppered. So yes, more information. Bring it back in November, and in between that, we'll have a working group to discuss the lease.
I'm off for the proposal. you've just said that none of us are qualified to do that. So we have a solicitor, and that's why I'm saying it's down to the office to do it. You've actually said publicly that no councillor is qualified to make any opinion on it.
They could still liaise. I'll come to you in a minute.
But the deputy chairman has just said that we're to look at the leases and things. You've told me I shouldn't be looking at it.
Yeah, you've made the point 3 times. I'm going to listen to what Joyce has to say now.
So that's my proposal on the table.
I've got it.
Then
I've
there's
read it
been
out.
an amendment, so
I'll
we
rub it
need
out.
to
Look,
deal
rub
with
it
that,
out.
please.
Joyce.
Oh, thank you, Chairman.
That's all right.
I would second a deferment on this because the residents are going to regroup and they need time as well. So I would second that it is deferred until we've got all the information in front of us. Thank you.
Okay. Oh yes, I'm going to, Anne.
Right. I don't know what you'd call it this time because there's so many bits and pieces going around, but I would like to suggest that we do have a working group on this so that we can bring it up at the next meeting, but we are more in touch. And one reason is because I want to come and have a look. And so I just think that would be helpful because in theory I think it's brilliant, but we want the residents to be happy, we want everybody to be happy, because if you've got discontented residents, then, you know, there could be problems. So I'd love to come and have a look and have a working group and do it next meeting.
Right, so I've got a proposal from Martin, which I'm going to go to first, because naturally we could have another proposal where we set up a working group, so I'm going to deal with them individually. So Martin's was that this decision by the council is deferred until the November meeting to enable, can we get some more, definitely the accurate plans?
It's the agenda item because we don't even really know officially what the decision should be from the agenda. We're just deferring the item. No, it's...
No, you carry on, Martin. The rest of us will go to the pub while you rattle on. At the end of the day, I'm trying to get your motion through, but you won't let me.
But Chairman, seriously, I could have proposed this evening that we deferred this whole item straight away because this
you have deferred it till
this
November.
agenda item is not legal because it doesn't tell us what we should be doing. It's as simple as that.
Right.
You wouldn't have it at Rutland County Council.
That's irrelevant. There's no point in bringing that
because
up.
the big issue
Martin,
is
Councillor Brooks, look, all you're doing, you've
raised
raised a point which is not going to get seconded because you won't give anybody a chance to speak. Now, Councillor Brooks has made a proposal that this item is deferred to enable additional information to be brought to the council's attention in November, to also allow the residents that are going to go down and have a look at the site to do that and probably give us some feedback. Also enables the community trust to actually make sure that we have got exactly the right information. So basically, it's a deferral till November, which appears to have been seconded by Councillor Lucas.
Yes.
So all those in favour that this is oh no, I'm dealing with yours. Yeah. So I'm going to come to working groups in a moment. So all those in favour that this is deferred to November so we can get some more accurate information. Show of hands, please.
I don't understand.
Just vote on this first. Just vote.
We're putting it back
It's not me having my working group.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in favour. All those against that? 1. All those who 2.
Sorry, Paul.
Right, so 3 against. Right, so it's now been deferred to November. David suggested that a working group be set up who could, on behalf of the council, probably, I would suggest that a working group is not a bad idea. I know that you mentioned it as well, because they could liaise with Willowbrook to get the plans together. They could liaise with the clerk and the solicitor to get this legal stuff ironed out, and also to start looking at discussing with our solicitor in the event that it goes ahead in, let's say, in November, that what would be a rent review situation. So is that the kind of thing we're looking at?
Yeah.
So a proposal of a working group...
No.
Hang on.
You didn't include what I was intending you to include, that we could actually, not just with Willowbrook, but we could with the neighbourhood people,
Residents.
residents who get theirs, then they can, feedback to us as well.
Yeah, they'll be in November, they'll do that in November.
Oh,
at the
can't
main
they,
meeting.
but wouldn't it be better if they discussed with us first, so that we had a whole picture of the whole thing? With the working group?
I would. All right. Let me just iron this out. A working group is set up. And fine, Martin. Right. A working group is set up that consists of at least 3 members of this council, the clerk, and a representative giving the feedback or the information from the residents if they want to, and from Willowbrook. And that way, because you can have, it might be that the residents go, yeah, this is our opinion, and they might just want to send a letter in saying what their opinion is or something, but they may not want to attend meetings. I can't see why not. So that's a proposal. Are you happy with that sort of proposal? So it would be 3 members of the council. Right, I'm going to see what Peter has to say first.
Well, I'd like to second that because I think this is in danger of drifting on. We could be deferring and deferring and deferring.
We don't want to do that.
We've got to get to grips with it. So I think the working group should be all embracing.
Yeah.
It's not just looking at the lease or talking. It needs to bring the whole thing together, do a comprehensive report, and then we can have a vote in a month, hopefully, 2 months maximum.
Yeah.
Really get it moving forward.
Thank you. So it's been proposed by. Have you got an amendment to this, Martin?
Yeah, I just wanted to make it more clear, because that was what I was going to be, but you added it in that they might like to be a representative, but I'd like it more clear that because it was mentioned there are at least 4 residents in the ward who are affected.
We'll
But
need
the
all 4,
representation was one person from that group was appointed onto the working group.
Yeah, or feedback from them. So
I'm not against.
No,
to do something. I'm just against what's happened and the way we're moving forward.
Well, we've moved through that bit now. We've forgiven them. We're all through.
Everyone's got them made.
So somebody...
3, we've got 3 council members. Peter second. All those in favour of a working group?
Seconded.
That's going to be unanimous.
Right, should we now decide who's going to be on
Let's decide who's going to be on that working group.
I would like to be on it, please. Jean, don't you want to?
Right, we've got Anne wants to be on it. Jean, you're representative.
Joy,
Joy would like to be on it.
Yeah, I thought. Sorry, somebody said Jean.
I thought you might like to be on it because you know about these things.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I do, but I'm going to say I'm a bit confused because I understand what you want from the working group. What I didn't understand was we're not discussing the plans, are we?
No. You're going to be collating information and putting forward a document that hopefully convinces the council one way or the other.
And looking at the red.
Yes.
So I'm not going to ask you to look at plans and go, yeah, I want them to be pink and blue or red roofs.
Positioning of them.
Right.
Just before we move on,
it's just
yeah.
Just you have a,
No, it's not.
because he's our representative on the lake as well.
It's
So
moved.
not.
So if she only joined last, she only started last month. I think she would be the perfect person for it from that point of view. Right, so Joy wants to go on it. Martin, do you want to go on it as well?
Yes, please.
There's only going to be 3, so we'll obviously have to vote on this. Is there anybody else that wants to go on it? Well, I'll be going on it if I get voted on.
The chairman should be on it.
That's what I figured, thanks. So we can only have 3, so we now need... I'm going to need... No, good heavens.
We could have 4, because we actually haven't moved the working group, have we? Or it needs to be.
We are talking about the position.
We're looking at how many... We're looking at 3... We're looking for 3 people. So who's... Anne was proposed by...
Me.
Seconded by...
Me.
Sally Ann. Jean was proposed by Anne and seconded by Paul. Joy was proposed by
Me.
Joyce and seconded by
me.
Peter. Martin was proposed by himself, seconded by...
No, I'm probably.
Anybody want to second mine? That's a no then. Adam said he would get... The chairman proposed himself, seconded by David. Pay later. Don't minute that. Right, sorry Martin, then you're... So, do we want to leave it as 4 then?
I'm happy
Yes.
with
Yeah?
Gets to
So can we have a vote for all of those then to carry that through then, to make that sealed in stone?
I vote against Anne, please.
You can, but at the moment I've got it's 10 in favour
But
and
not,
one,
not for Anne.
and one against.
No, because it's, sorry.
Right, okay, we can move on then.
What we'll do then is that we'll obviously, and what we'll do is that we'll be,
Oh,
we can give you a room
It's
on the
got to be
front.
dealt with
Boxing gloves.
seriously.
What we'll do is we'll get in contact with Willowbrook directly. We will expect you to be probably initially in contact because you're dealing with the residents, and it only needs to be one resident that feeds back the opinion of the 4 or 5 or however many it is. Yeah, is that okay? And we'll start to see what happens next. But we need to get at least 1 or 2 meetings in between now and our November meeting, which is going to be tough. Okay, and it will probably be in the evening. Okay, around about this time. Thank you, everybody. That was quite tough. I appreciate everybody being as patient as they could. If you don't want to stay for the rest of the meeting,
Would you like to keep the drawing? It's a big
no,
one.
can you take
No,
that one away?
I've got the original one that went to RCC.
It's just if
in
anybody
there.
wants to look at it, it's easy to read.
What it is, one of the things that we're going to be looking at the very first meeting is that we have brand new drawings and that sort of thing. Does that sound reasonable?
If you want large scale ones, just let me know and I'll get them.
Probably bring that one, but we'll probably be using the projector as well.
Well, I can do this PDFs as well.
Thank you.
So.
But thank you. Working groups, written community trust, working group, steering group strategy to receive written verbal reports. Now the neighbourhood plan one I think went on the table, went out, didn't it?
Yeah.
Right. Promotion publicity working group. Sally Ann,
Yeah.
you got one?
Quick one.
Shoot.
Okay. Band concerts this year have been well received, and I would like to thank all the people who came down to help me set up and put away the chairs at the end of the evening. I'd also like to thank my partner Steve, who designed all the adverts that went into the newspaper, and he did a different one for every week, which is we're now looking forward to the Christmas light switch on being held on Sunday, December the 2nd. We have agreed to work in partnership with Oakham and Bloom on the window display competition. The invites for the shops and businesses has been put together and will be delivered as soon as the road closure has been sorted. That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Can I just make a comment, Chairman?
You can.
Could I have a recorded vote of thanks for the work that Sally Ann does?
Yeah.
And her partner. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, that's.
Particularly that really wet day.
Can you get either yourself or Sarah to draft a letter
We were
from
coming
the council and ask to Sally Ann's partner?
Okay.
And can I ask a question on the neighbourhood plan?
Yes, of course, Cam. I don't know if I can answer it, but yes, please do.
Just briefly, Chairman, on the neighbourhood plan one. At the last meeting, it was mentioned about the funding and what have you, and I did wonder whether Barleythorpe had been asked if they were going to make a contribution.
No, I don't think they have. Actually. No. No.
what's known as a stone sign.
No, I mean,
Wasn't mentioned.
no, it wasn't. Do you want to make a note of that, Paul, and ask Chris?
Okay. Yeah.
You ask him.
We are spending the money. Yes. Good.
Yeah. We don't normally talk on these, but have you got a question, Martin, on this as well?
I do as well,
Shoot.
but also then I have a very brief financial report before the financial
Oh, right.
statement. The usual thing.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
I have raised the issue of funding, obviously, for the neighbourhood plan. You'll see, I believe, some of the documentation shows that once again it's quite extraordinarily high over budget. And when I was allowed to attend one meeting, it was said that it was going to come to council now, I think it's about 4 months ago, for this extra funding. It hasn't come to council, but in this report here, it says something about it, and that they would pay us back some surplus money. I wasn't aware that
We don't get
had owed the money, but I'm just wondering why the request hasn't come to council.
What request?
And well, the request for the money, because there was additional costs from employing these consultants, which they were going to come back to us, but it appears it's just noted that they would like us to give us some extra money, and they'll give it back to
We wait for
Jay.
Chris to give us a thing on this.
Oh, it's months have gone past.
Sorry about turning my.
Yeah, go on. It's to me.
It's on waiting there. If
Yeah,
it should come
I mean,
from the chairman.
one of the last reports said they wanted some money to do some expenses and some money for some consultants, and it was going to cost X amount. The council agreed to do that. It was recommended by the consultants that we submit our second grant application, ready for the getting towards the end stages where they're now looking at drafting a plan for December New Year. If that grant application goes in and is successful, there's no reason why it shouldn't be. The money will be used from that to help fund what is the balance of whatever it costs to go through the final setting up. Any money that's left over from that gets sent back to the people it comes from. We don't get that, and requested input to Chris Clark to actually give us some more detailed costings of what is going to be required from the neighbourhood plan.
But what I don't understand then is that we got a grant, which we know the clerk applied for, and it wasn't enough money. Now, why hasn't it come to council for this second grant? Because they're not allowed to.
I'll let Alison explain that.
They're not allowed to make these decisions.
They Open Plan put in their proposal.
Yeah.
You can only apply for a grant. You can't just apply for the full amount, and you needed to apply for what they were quoting for.
You have to justification.
Justification. So they've applied for the money, which with council or the neighbourhood have now received. So if they haven't put in another proposal yet. That's what we're waiting for.
Originally, wasn't enough to come.
Well, no, because that was on the first stage. You can only apply for a grant to the amount that you need. You can't apply for more.
They applied for what they needed but didn't get. They got 9,000.
No, they didn't. They got 4,500.
You criticised the previous chairman for saying he missed a threshold for applying.
He got 4,500 is what they asked for.
They wanted 9,000 something, wasn't it?
No, they wanted 4,500. The original 2,700 came out of last year's budget. Which came out of last year's budget. They applied for a grant of 4,500, which they've received. And yes, I'm waiting for the neighbourhood plan which they are waiting for from Open Plan, their next invoice or their next quotation.
But we, I'm talking now for the finance working group, we're supposed to be setting a budget. This year they're over budget. We don't know what they want for next year.
No, I have asked them.
They haven't told us.
They haven't told us.
No, but they need to.
We know. We've asked them.
And when you say we're over budget, what do you mean by that?
Well, you've got in brackets means it's over budget, doesn't it?
No, I don't. You'll see with the new thing. That's the 4,500. It actually went in. I've now changed it to an income, so they're not over.
Okay,
they're actually.
They've only
spent £133.
Open council, anyway, sorry. What I wanted to say was to do with the finance. We are, because of people's commitments, we weren't able to reconcile officially the accounts for this month, but that doesn't mean there's anything wrong, because I've looked at it and I don't see any issues, but as an individual councillor I'm not allowed to do it on my own, so myself and Zoe will be consulting with the clerk, possibly doing the final sign-off tomorrow.
Okay.
So there was no issues that I saw.
Thank you, that's brilliant, thank you for that. There's no other St George, there's nothing from St George's at the moment.
I've had something on my...
That's something
There's
different.
loads about the meeting.
Good.
Have
Okay.
you not had it?
Probably, but I don't feel the need to talk about it. Well, everyone receives all the same information, so I read it, digest it. If I feel, this is the thing, this is a key point, and I do this at work, if I receive information, I read it. If I feel I don't understand it, then I'll go and ask the appropriate person. If I feel that there's something wrong, I'll go and point it out to the appropriate person. But if I understand it, I haven't got any issues, then I don't get overly excited.
I've had nothing from Anne.
So, you've had nothing from Anne?
No.
Anne, can you send
Not
something
from
from
Daniel.
Oh, from Daniel.
Daniel.
we saw a report came through, thank you very much to Joy, that was sent around through the Open Town Task and Finish group, and this was a document please do, because in fact I was unclear on it, and I haven't read it all yet.
I've read it.
It's quite a big read. Dan isn't here, so he's asked me to give the report.
Ah.
Is that right?
That's great, Rocky, you carry on.
Okay.
Put it on the back of your paper. Rocky.
It's a free gift somewhere.
Yeah.
I've got 6 reams on it. To fulfil the requirements of their brief, the Task and Finish Group have produced an evidence-based report and this is the copy that you should all now have received.
Yeah.
The work was mainly done by members of the Oakham Residents Group, with some help from some members of the team. But the whole team has now accepted this as the Task and Finish Group report to carry forward. Using the findings and the results from the 2017 public consultation both by the County Council and the Oakham Neighbourhood Plan, which is very useful, town issues have been highlighted, and guided by this, the group have identified a way forward. They are making broad recommendations and outlining a number of projects which can be taken forward to fruition. In doing so, they have taken into account the expectations of the Oakham electorate, whilst acknowledging the limitations of current financial constraints. The overall direction of recommendations is to address specific highlighted issues, for example, parking, pedestrian safety, signage, and to increase the vitality of Oakham by building on its strengths and positive local and visitor perceptions of a historic market town, so as to preserve and enhance the heritage street scene, invigorate local pride in the environment, and promote tourism, with an increased visitor offer, thus increasing footfall and economic growth throughout the town. Some of the recommendations relate to nuts and bolts issues which are clearly within the remit of the County Council, and some of which are high priority. Others require a willingness on the part of local bodies to work together and further consultation with the public. Oakham Town Council will receive a copy of the report with the recommendations when it's complete. It is expected that an ongoing working group, which should include representatives from the Oakham Town Council, will develop, seek further funding for and grant aid where needed to bring to fruition some of the projects that are being recommended. Having looked at things that the Town Council have done in the past, you should be aware that some of the recommendations coming forward will be things that you will be very interested in, and I hope that you will want to pick up and work with. But when you get the recommendations in a couple of weeks, then you'll have a see what's on the list. We're looking at the nuts and bolts are parking, traffic issues, pedestrian safety and signage, and the cooperative issues are environmental enhancement, marketing the town, footfall and enterprise, community engagement, and leisure and culture.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Can I just ask, is that you or is that Dan?
That's me.
That's you.
Peter.
But we would have written it together.
Chairman, I know this is not what we normally do, but I would like to commend the team on this report. It's very comprehensive. I've read it through thoroughly. There's a lot of good issues, and I like the idea that when the Task and Finish Group finishes, not good English, but it's the fact,
Close enough.
we have an involvement.
Yes.
It's important. We should have been more there in the past.
Yeah.
And I think we gradually need to get involved in this.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked a year ago. We talked about having a nice clock in the town and things like this. And I'm sure there's other ideas we've got to add to what has already been said.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Yeah. So we'll minute the hard work that's going by by some members of that group.
Can I add to that and thank Joy, because I get lots of positive comments about Joy, and it's good that we've got a town council who's doing a lot of work on this.
Okay. Brilliant. No, thank you, Joy.
Thank you for that, because I'm usually in trouble.
Can you minute that as well? Item 11. I think. Thank you. All right, no, thank you. That's perfect. See you later. Item 11 is statement of accounts, and decide whether to approve the statement of accounts for the 30th of September. So, any comments from Martin's already said that he's obviously had a look through it himself, didn't see anything obvious at the moment, and himself and the finance were mutually doing it.
Don't know if I'm on the right page. I'll have to sit down because otherwise I won't be able to see it. There's University of Leicester path.
So it was archaeological.
Yes.
What was it?
That's the archaeological
Yes.
Yes.
All right. It was when it said path.
I know,
Yeah.
so I've got
Sally.
Sarah up on that, sorry.
Just a quick question. We've got 2 payments to Prison Medical for the chair hoist. Why have we paid twice?
Because they had to come back out again, the battery went flat. The first one was they serviced it and put right what needed doing, and then we had to call them out a second time because the battery was flat.
Can I ask a question here? Because normally when something is serviced under a service agreement, they should have checked the battery. Because when we do services on fire alarms and burglar alarms, we always check the batteries, and that's part of it. Is the battery should have been changed? Surely not just left until it went full. It's just a point that we need to take up with them, I think.
Okay, so. Alison will chase that. But in the meantime, we've got the payment to be done, so you propose we accept this item?
Yes.
Seconded by Anne?
Yes.
All those in favour, show of hands. Unanimous. Item 12 is the external auditor's report. There's not a lot to say on this really. It's except for otherwise the external auditor's report. Well, it's a report. It's a given. No major issue. Well, no issues, and it's been. I think it went up in notice board, didn't it?
It's on our website.
Right, Martin.
Yes, I'm just going to say thank you to the chairman because.
Minute
Yeah.
Twice.
Well, because a lot of my difficulties with this council was to get us to follow the procedure, and I won't mention names, but for at least the last 3 years, we seem to have failed to handle this properly. It was very difficult to get hold of copies of auditors' reports. It is slightly, did you make one little mistake there? You said there were nothing raised.
I said there was nothing major.
Well, it was very unfortunate, and I said to Alison that we did work quite hard to make sure this year that it was all handled correctly, and I can see immediately this evening we're being asked to instantly rectify that error.
Okay.
And that's
why you have reports and audits.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm very happy.
So we don't need to vote on this, do we, Alison? It's just.
We're supposed to.
I'd do it to accept and no.
We're supposed to note the auditor's comments.
Are you proposing
that we that we've taken the appropriate action. So basically, the clerk can just say, if she doesn't mind me saying, that we note the auditor's comment, and on agenda item number 12, we actually rectified that error.
Okay, so that's
whatever words.
No, I think that's pretty accurate actually. So that's a proposal by Martin. Then I'll take that as seconded by Sally Ann. All those in favour of that, accepting it. Brilliant. Well done. That's unanimous. So well done. It's been one of the better years. Shall we leave it at that?
Yeah.
And obviously that you thank the chairman.
It was me that put it on.
In capitals. I was quoting you with the.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well, I thank the clerk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Minute 88, thanking of the clerk. 13 is a risk assessment and management. Item 15. Provide a supportive and professional environment for staff. Alison, you. This is what it is. Is each year we're meant to review all the documents. Hopefully everybody's looked through this. I didn't see anything I wanted to change or anything.
It says reviewed and approved by the council, so I can't remember that coming up.
No,
that's
what you're doing now.
That's what the dates and crosses.
So you've read the report, and if there's nothing you want to change in it, if we vote on this,
then that gets approved.
It has a new date of
and then it goes on the website.
October 2018. Martin.
Yeah, I would just like to say. I'd just like to say that you could make the report endless, but as I read the guidance from now, it would be very dangerous to say that we've listed everything. But what we have, I believe, is adequate for the moment.
Cool. I like that. So, looking for a proposal that we accept this.
Can I say something?
Of course you can.
Who actually wrote it?
Well, it's been written over the years by different councils, and then it's evolved, and it's been updated or managed at the moment by the clerk.
So we have a high. See, that's the only thing I'm worried about. If we have a high, we have to do something immediately.
Now, this is our own assessment where we've identified something as a high.
Yes, well then we have to do something. You can't just leave a high.
What are you looking at?
Legal liability, installation of Christmas displays. Are we not covered for that with our insurance?
Yes, we are. Yeah. But
why did it say high then?
It's the likelihood of an occurrence, but we've got a contract. This is our evidence
So this is our own assessment. So we've identified it as a high risk, but we've put in some mitigating circumstances to make sure that it doesn't develop into an incident.
And the bottom one's high as well.
Yeah. And once again, so this,
We are covered.
Higher agreement in
Well, it's
place.
not high.
No, it'll still be high because it could still be a.
Right. If you're absolutely sure, that's all right.
Peter.
Yes, I'm a big supporter of risk management.
And a tall one as well.
A tall one, yes. It's extremely important. I think the only thing that's missing possibly, and one we did at County Council, was public perception. Reputation of the council, and it's something we've been a bit adrift on in the last 2 or 3 years, shall we say. So whether we want to add that or just bear it in mind, I don't know. We have steps to mitigate in here, but again at the County Council, any major report had a risk assessment, and it went through various phases, and I think for any major issues we have in the future, we should look at it more closely.
Okay. So I would take that as a proposal that we accept this as it is, with the caveat that the Policies and Procedures Working Group review whether we should be introducing that public perception as an additional line. Because we have a Policies and Procedures Working Group, and that. Because that way they could be looking at it over the next 6 months and could bring it to they could bring it sooner than this time next year. But that way we could sign this one off, and then the Policies Working Group could say, yeah, that was good. Because we might go and vote, yeah, let's put it in, and then we'll actually find that actually it's not a risk that we want to entertain anymore. And I'd rather have the Policies and Procedures Working Group earn their bacon, as they say. So is that okay? Yeah?
Yeah, yes. I mean, the example is the Rutland Trust.
Yeah.
There's a lot of legality to that, and there's talk about, is it allotment land, was it
yes.
not? Or,
and this is why
they're all risks.
This is why Alison's been onto the solicitor all week about this, trying to get...
And the reason you only got the information tonight is because I only got it late, and you've had it straight away. Yeah.
So, are you happy that the proposal then for Peter is that this is accepted as 218?
I'll second it.
And that the issue about is passed to the Policies and Procedures Working Group.
Yes.
So seconded by Anne. All those in favour? Unanimous. Now the budget. Now this could be hours, but it won't necessarily be hours because this is the first pass. Okay, this has been brought forward by the clerk. It's been raised. I think Martin sent a couple of emails on it. Dave's aware of it. Obviously, I'm aware of it. But what it is, this is a budget and all the headings on things that we do. So, for instance, on the very first page at the top where it says salaries, etc. So that means national insurance and pensions, if you want to be asked. So salaries, the budget for 2017-18 was 50,000, the budget 2018-19 was 51,000, and the situation at the 30th of September was we'd spent 22,000. So between now and the end of the financial year, it looks like we're expecting to spend another £28,000 roughly. The estimate for next year is that it is £56,000. That's because there's going to be pay increases because we're governed by government regulations. There also could be that when Alison passes her SILCA, which is nearly complete, that there was a link in with her contract that she would get an appropriate pay award accordingly. So that's just the first one. Now, I wasn't planning on going through every heading this evening because this is the sort of thing that will probably take us an hour alone. And it's the sort of thing as well also previously in the past when we've done this, and I think Martin and Joyce will remember this, and probably even Sally Ann. In previous years we've had it on the projector, and as we've said, well actually, I think that the rent should be, they're going to put it up, it'll be £14,000. We change it on the spreadsheet, don't we?
Yeah. And
we can see the figures calculate. So tonight, I think as a first pass, everyone, like Sally Ann's been asked to put in some figures. I'd like everybody to take this away with them this evening, unless anybody's got anything significant they want to say now, and that we give this a good hour of our attention probably at the next meeting, which is going to be difficult if we've got the House Community Trust, right? But we certainly, and we might even have to call an extraordinary meeting to go through specifically budget.
I think that should happen.
Right. So, any questions on that?
Can I just say something?
The only
additional one I I've been waiting. They've had a few changes at highways. Some people have left, so the only issue is grit bins. But we've got 22 people already. I've had a request for another one, and I'm still waiting for costs. But I think you're going to be looking with refill costs. We're going to be looking at £2,000, £2,500 maybe.
Because we have to fill them.
Because we have to fill them, and people obviously are requesting new ones. So that we're going to have to sort of pencil in 2,500, I think, for that.
But so Alison will make sure the sheet is updated then.
Yeah.
Joy, you wanted to ask a question or make an observation?
Question.
Please.
Do you want to stand up?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You're more. By the way, people are more comfortable.
Shut that
sitting.
door if it's cold as well.
Where in the budget does capital expenditure come? So if you decide that you want to buy a clock, which is obviously not something that you bought last year and going to buy next year, where does this come into the budget?
Right.
And does it have to be budgeted for
Yes.
in the year ahead?
Yes.
So if
Right.
we're looking for the future...
On the second
year ahead,
page where it says recreation planning and general, there's at the end of there it says cuts close resurfacing. Now that was a capital expenditure budget really heading. So if the councillor comes at the next meeting and goes, I got this cunning plan, we should have a town clock, and it's going to cost £25,000. We'd put that into the appropriate section and build it in. So if you have do you want a clock? No, please don't answer that. But that's how it would work.
So if we're looking at things that might be happening in Oakham over the coming year,
Yes.
for which you might wish to take a part and make a financial commitment,
We add a heading.
when do we have to put that figure in?
December meeting.
December meeting.
This gets signed off at the end of December, January at the very, very latest. So if you've got something in mind, you need to be emailing the clerk. You might go, right, I think we're going to be spending £8,000 on the, I don't know, No Way, One Way project, whatever. If you email Alison and say, can that go in as a budget? She'll put it in. The council might kick it out and not put in the budget out. The CA, Citizens Advice, they've asked for £2,000 again. So that will be added in.
So if when the Sussex Group has made its recommendations and they finalise what they're going to say, it will go forward to the county council. They will also come to you.
And ask for money.
No, they will be asking you what you think about the recommendations and which you would like to participate in. Should we then have something on our agenda where the council looks at the recommendations and says we would be interested in this project or this project or this project?
But you have to bring a paper.
It only depends if that project means that the council, the town council, I don't know what point it moves, I'm telling you. If the town council says, yes, we like that idea about having pink lampposts up and down the high street, it's going to cost £50,000, and RCC said that's what's come out of this working group, but are the town council going to contribute towards that? That would need to go in here.
Yes.
So that
You need costings.
We need costings.
You need costings
You need
ready to go in the budget.
You can't put a blanket sum in
No,
with
not allowed to.
it has to be actual
Well, you
costings.
can, but it's not professional.
Because it seems to me that the future of Oakham is up to everybody, and it may be that the town council might like to, when they discuss the recommendations, might say, we like that idea, we would like to take that.
I've got one up here that I'm going to be putting forward.
See, the thing is, we can't ask for money in the precept.
Yes.
That we don't know if we're going to spend it or not.
Right.
We have to have it. It has to be a project that we know. If we're asking for money, and that will go out.
Martin.
Right.
Oh,
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
Dave sort of answered what I was going to say, but what, to put it in as simple as I can just finish off the bit. If, for instance, a councillor comes back from London County Council and says the town would like a clock, which I think we would support it, you wouldn't get it next year. If you came back before we set our budget and a paper's brought to council and says a clock is going to cost, I don't know, say £10,000, that's probably ridiculous. We would then have to vote whether we want that clock, and then we would put it in the budget in December. But we can't just put money aside,
No,
because like we've done the previous year, because we can't, if we put it in that budget,
Right.
that gets paid for.
Can I just clarify this clock?
We're not debating the clock. No, Peter is next. Yeah, Peter's next.
Yeah.
Clock was used as an example, Joyce. We're not going to.
Yeah, just
It's been on the card since
a quick
2000.
a quick one really. Having been involved in the budget in the last 2 years, we're on track. As the chairman has said, this is a first stab, so we're okay. But it's important that the working groups and anyone involved who wants money puts in the proper bid. What tended to happen in the last 2 years, people were putting in high figures. It bumped up the whole thing, and the precept went up.
Yeah.
We want to try and be more accurate this year and not go for figures that are, not going to materialise. Because what happens, the precept is going up slightly because Oakham is growing, but it's not going up much. Unfortunately, most of the growth is in Barleythorpe. So we can afford a bit going up, or we could take a bit from reserves, and we've done that in the past, so there's another possibility. I just, while I'm on my feet, I want to say I would like to see the precept held, because it doesn't look good if it's going up 15-20%. I think we should make an effort to keep level.
Yes, okay. If it's already been said, Martin, don't say it again.
No, I want to talk.
Go on. What are you talking about, budget?
The budget, yes. I'd like to thank the clerk for what she's done. She knows I'm going to say it. But we had an issue at the council, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the meeting. The clerk, as the responsible officer, can do this if we delegate it. But this council voted to give the powers to work on the budgets to a working group, which is now myself, Dave and Zoe. So I was hoping that we could resolve the situation tonight to bring in the clerk officially to help her, because it is quite a big task. We need to look at this very carefully, and I'm saying publicly today that I don't believe that the 24th is enough time, one meeting. I think we're going to have to sit down and take on board quite important what because in the past we have ignored. We've ignored. I'll have to speak.
Yeah, but I don't know what you're talking about.
We've ignored the fact of surplus money from budgets. Like I'm told that one group wants £7,000, but there's been no consideration to the excess of what wasn't spent this year. So all these things need to be looked at. This is why our reserves are built up. If you look at the bank statement tonight, we've got nearly £300,000 in the bank. And that takes us, I don't know how much, I'm not an expert on this.
I can tell you the exact figures.
I can't tell what that figure's going to be at the beginning of this year. That's why we need more meetings to sit down.
I don't know what we're trying to achieve here at the minute.
We're only halfway through the year as well.
Well,
I think
we're a bit further than half.
We'll just have.
I just want to have more meetings on it and to take it a little bit more seriously. I know that I asked about when we should be doing it, and then nothing was required, and now it's been left, which fills the last minute, and that's not your fault. I'm not looking at it. It's just the way the council's done it.
Right.
And I'm not even really sure what we're supposed to be doing with this tonight.
All you do with that?
That's the complication.
I've made you aware it's the first part, so I want people to go away and read it, and then by the sounds of it, it looks like there will be an extraordinary meeting just to focus on the budget.
Absolutely.
And if you've got ideas of where you want extra money coming that we should be spending on a capital project or on something else, let Alison know. It can go on here, and then it will get beaten up on the slide projector. Okay.
Do we need to make a proposal so that you can do this officially? Explain. The reason Alison's got involved is because although I'm an electrician, I'm not a finance man, and I was originally at the AGM. I was hoping that Peter was going to stay on the finance committee because a very shrewd man. And I did ask Alison if she would help because it's all And that's how Alison's got involved. But if we need a proposal
There's no proposal on the paper.
No.
There's no recommendation. So this is why I say that at the next meeting we will be looking at going through the heading.
Do we need to make a proposal that to make it legal for Alison to help me out?
Yes, yeah, that's what you were hinting at, wasn't it?
I was just
Right, okay. Martin, yeah, that's what you said you were going to make that proposal.
Because we can do that. We can co-opt Alison onto the working.
Are you going to do that now?
If I can.
Yep,
shoot.
So if I put co-op the clerk into
Councillor
the working
Roxton has
group.
proposed that the clerk is co-opted onto the finance working
You're
group.
proposing it.
Yes, please. And
Seconded
that's
by
next week,
David.
then.
All those in favour, show of hands. That's 10-4.
I'm abstaining. I don't think it's necessary.
No.
Well, we just
Okay, anyway, so it's done. So, and the thing is, we will get, at the next meeting where we just do the budget as well, when we're all together, it'll become more clear.
I'll put Peter on as well.
I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going.
very quick.
Yeah. Review of policies and procedures, is it 15? Consider report, make any decisions. I suppose, is anybody got any questions?
Yeah. Well, if I'm just the reason we brought this is every year the Policy Procedures Committee has to review our standing orders, and we went through the standing orders quite vigorously, and the only issue that we came up with really is, and this all comes down from the Skullfoot Close incident, and in fact everything on this paper is set due to that. So we had a look at some other authorities to see what they did about the suspension of standing orders, which in my opinion we use far too often. And members of the Policy and Procedure Committee felt the same. So what we did, we looked at similar authorities, and what they do is, as is laid out in red. So what I've done, so I knew not everybody would bring their standing orders with them. I've put what we've got at the moment in black, and then what we want to replace it. So what we want to really do is do away with the suspension of standing orders on the 6-month rule, so you can't bring it back. And the idea is that in the red, we replace it with, the resolution shall be revised within 6 months except by special motion. And the idea being is that 50% of members of the council plus one...
Is that sitting members?
Sitting members of the council plus one would have to sign a letter to the clerk asking the clerk to bring it back. The reason they do that is you're not bringing an item back that's going to fall again and again and again, because if 50% plus one, you've already got a majority are going to vote in favour of it.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. And then the idea of the new standing order 60, standing order R6R1 is that you can't bring the same proposal back in a different guise.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah. Now, to do that, if you accept those, then we have to remove standing order 5A XXR completely, because that allows you to suspend standing orders other than those that are mandatory.
Well, if they're mandatory by law, you can't not do them mandatory by law.
No, you can't suspend them. So we can suspend every other standing order except the mandatory ones. Now, the only thing that would mean is that you wouldn't be able to suspend a standing order, we'll just say 6E, for instance, which is the amount of time we get to talk in a debate. So you may feel that you would like to keep that opportunity to do that, in which case we would accept an amendment, say that removes, keep 5A, but add that 6R and 6R2 are also exempt from the suspension of standing orders.
Okay.
And we also felt, which came from a member of the council actually, was a comment that was made that, again on the Skullfoot Close, and that happened on our last meeting when we gave them enough rope and they still hung us out to dry, that if we'd have taken a proposal before we had debate, which we don't normally do, but if the chairman has the feeling that from the meeting and the way things are going that it's not going to go on, then perhaps we could take a proposal and seconder first to see if there is any support for what we're about to debate, which would save us a lot of time.
Yeah.
So that's what that's what as Policy and Resources we are recommending to the council, and with those amendments we would also recommend the acceptance of the standing orders.
Can I ask, in that case, if you call for a proposer and a seconder, and there is a proposer and a seconder, do we then go on to vote on it, or do we then go back and discuss the issue?
What you would do is, if you've got a proposer and a seconder, we would then debate. We would then debate the proposals and everything else is included.
It stops you debating something that you're not going to. Because so often we've done this. We've talked about something for an hour, and then nobody's even proposed it, and we've just wasted an hour.
Yeah, I was just checking that it didn't mean that if you got a proposal second at the beginning, that you immediately went to the vote without a chance to discuss. That's what I wanted to know. That's fine.
Firstly, a couple of spelling errors.
That's probably.
Well, it says expect. It's accept, isn't it?
Sorry.
And I think on the second group of red, it says on similar motion. No similar motion, should that be?
Yeah.
Of similar motion.
No similar motion.
No
similar motion. I mean, just for
clarity. It's my dyslexia, Peter. I do apologise.
No, that's all right.
And what was the first one?
It says
accept. It says expect. Accept. I mean, it's important that they're in the standing orders correctly. I mean, the only observation I've got, it does give the chairman a bit of scope to move things forward. Whether that's good or not, one might question. I mean, the chairman's got to be honourable in doing it. That's the thing.
Absolutely. Martin's next.
Thank you to the working group for hopefully sorting this out, because at one point we actually scrapped this standing order because it was looking silly, but we needed it because we went through a phase of this council where practically every meeting the standing order was being invoked, and it was really quite silly. That point of the chairman's thing, without having the old copies in front of me, I think that is actually a power that the chairman had originally, but may have been removed, where the chairman can move for a proposal, because otherwise people could debate all night, so it's not a problem to me at all, and I thank them for sorting this out finally.
Okay, Anne, are you going to say something?
I was just going to say, would it be possible, if these all go through, if we could have an up-to-date copy?
Yes.
Thank you.
Right, looking for a proposal to anybody else? Looking for a proposal to accept the paper as it is with these spelling amendments. Proposed by Mike, seconded by Peter. All those in favour, show of hands. Unanimous. And the last thing is finance.
I do apologise. I meant to say to my apologies, public apologies to Sally Ann, because of the Policy and Procedures Committee, I forgot to notify. I did get a list. No, I didn't. No, I just want to get that in. I meant to say that, right. But again, the Financial Regulation Finance Working Group, again, we have to review our financial regulations every year, which we've done. The Regulation 11(1)H, we're withdrawing. It was there. Members felt we should change the word. We decided not to bother. Yeah. So that's been pulled.
Good.
And the other regulation, the only thing really, and again, there's nothing wrong with the regulation other than it actually states Standing Order 21, which when you go through standing orders relates to restrictions on council's activities, and we felt it should be should be subject to Standing Order 27, which comes under the financial matters. So I think it was probably a typo.
So just change the first
one. So the paper's only accepting Regulation 11.1G.
Yeah, but it should be 27, not 21.
Yeah, okay.
And otherwise I'll move the acceptance of the financial.
Right, okay. Any comments? You proposing we accept this?
But Dave proposed.
Oh, you seconded it?
And I seconded it.
Does anybody want to make any comments before we go into it? Right, all those in favour that's carried then? That's
just do the last one about time.
Oh, sorry, yeah, the time. Right, what it is, there was a very good idea come forward. Decide whether the fixed time of the meetings is moved to 6:30 because of the dark evenings. Has anybody got any problem with that? Is everybody happy with that, Joyce?
I've got a problem with that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to stand.
No,
I'm
fine.
too tired.
I am.
It has always been 7 o'clock, and this is not right for the residents. It should stay at 7 o'clock. I mean, that has been going on before unitary authority was.
Before I was born.
I'm sorry, but we've got to be open and transparent for the residents.
Thank you, Joyce.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
I shall be voting
Joyce.
against.
No, mine.
Yeah,
I don't know what that says.
I'm trying to put it in a nice way, but
You do.
I used to object to the planning subcommittee being held in the daytime on the basis that
Yes.
residents couldn't attend. Now, I do know, and I won't speak for them, that some members work and find it quite, difficulty. Not me, because I purposely take Wednesdays off because of the council meeting, but some of them travel and they're finding it a little bit difficult but manageable to get here for 7 o'clock. Now, residents, most of them who work, who may be interested, we can't, just because they don't come.
They are coming.
Yeah, they are recently, but we have had
Thank
it before that residents don't come.
Yes.
And we can make changes. Well, if a lot of our residents who might be interested to come work, and they work out of town,
Right.
and to say to them to come here at 6:30 with the public transport or whatever, I think is not really a good thing. And I did look at the concern about the fact that we sometimes were meeting very late. Tonight we're finishing at 8, and there is an
We're not, it's
improvement
10
that since we've moved the other meeting away, we haven't had to extend too often, and I hope we won't need to in the future. But so I can't support this change.
Right. Okay. Joy.
If a resident wishes to come to a meeting because there's something on the agenda and is unable to manage the time, if they write to the council, would that be put back to later on in the meeting to accommodate that?
We could be, the agenda could be moved around, yes, it could
Yeah.
be, yes.
That is very messy.
Right. Anne.
Yeah, I would like to just
Sorry, Paul.
speak very quickly about this. I actually support 6:30, but the other thing is the next meeting coincides with the Capmo's presentation, which I had the invitation for today, and I feel very strongly that we should support that school. It's brilliant, and so I will not be at the meeting unless you change the date. Thank you.
Well, I was hoping
Paul.
to bring that up.
Paul, the same as Anne.
Paul.
Should we do this one first?
I've just how many people can't get here for 6:30 among us?
Well, unless you put the trees right at the end. No.
Might be here for 5:30.
Well, the thing is, could the public come in at 7 o'clock if we got through other business first?
Still got here tonight. Right. Anybody got any other comment? Looking for a proposal whether to change? I mean, in fact, this was designed for the winter period initially.
Yeah.
It wasn't to be a permanent thing. So, looking for a proposal that the times of the meetings for November, December, January, and probably February are changed to 6:30 start time. Proposed by Paul, seconded by Anne. All those in favour, good show of hands on this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 for it. All those against?
Yes.
2. All those abstaining? 2 of us, because we're cowards. But it's a good idea. Martin, right, the meeting's now closed. It's 8:10. I'm meant to be somewhere else. But very quickly, everyone, I think most people have had an invite to Catmas, and most people seem to want to go this year.
Yes.
So the meeting on the 14th of November,
Which is
20
not.
to 20.
Health and Town
we're looking at combining it and doing it with the planning meeting. Yeah?